food and beverage industry is taxing, and certainly we should be doing more to support our independent operators, those who stake it all on going into business.
We recently chatted to 3 young restaurateurs, asking them about the challenges they face in Hong Kong.
Well, there's been many. I think the first year you kind of just start to see little things coming in and out. Difficulties dealing with license, property ownership, you'd say with the police as well, contractors. It ranges from, everything.
And was there ever a time when you were in the midst of it and thinking, oh God, what have I done? Why am I doing this? Or were you so driven to say, I've got to get this restaurant
Well, I
open?
think I was expecting these things to come, but I wasn't expecting it to come all at the same time, or trying to deal with it and then keeping myself emotionally, sane, which I'm sure everyone has to go through at some point. I think I was expecting it, yeah. And like I always say, we love torturing ourselves. That's why we're in it.
And yourself, May?
I think same situation. A lot of times when you go through contracting and being a woman as well, like you're dealing with a lot of men and they don't respect you when you say that that's not perfect. So it was really good. I wasn't part of a restaurant group, but I came from a background where I was with Yardbird and I was with a lot of restaurants I already had experience. So they really helped me into guiding me through the way. And I had a very mean brother who was like my business
That always helps.
So I was leashing out the dog. It was like crazy. He would go nuts at the construction site. He would just throw stuff down. So I didn't have to do it. So I was always more about the creative part, and all the crazy stuff I kind of left it to him.
Good, so you both had a really good support structure.
Yeah.
When you took over from your dad, obviously that support structure was well in place as well, but did you find any difficulties?
I think one of the difficulties is because Cantonese cuisine, which I serve in my restaurant, have a very long history, and the customer are quite stubborn. And a lot of occasions, when you try to introduce something new, there's always hesitation from the staff or even the customers, and you have to think about how you can bring in changes, bring in new dishes into such a great culture of Chinese dining. And
do you think the same problem is what gets in the way of, say, a new breed of Cantonese people that are coming through and spearheading the cuisine around the world?
Well, I think in Hong Kong we are quite behind compared to the international dining scene, and no matter it's people from the industry or our customers, their mindset are still quite backward.
Okay. Do you think there's ever an opportunity in Hong Kong for somebody like a Red Zeppi or a Heston Blumenthal or somebody like that to come out of Hong Kong and actually take Cantonese cuisine or something from Hong Kong and actually put it on a world stage?
Certainly, Bow Innovation is a part of that whole movement, right?
Yeah, I think in Hong Kong, as a lot of restaurateurs, they don't have a vision, or because we cannot, unlike other places, they may have a 10 years lease. In Hong Kong, at most you can got 6 years, and you may spend 4 million Hong Kong in the renovation of the premises. So you have to think, okay, how can I get all the investment back during the short period of time? So there's no vision in it. All you think about is how to maximize the profit, how to utilize everything you have, and then you would not take risk. That's why most of the Chinese restaurants are quite conservative.
And do you think the industry faces an excess of, say, bureaucratic bullshit? Yeah, that's really what it is. You've got 5 different departments. You've got licensing, you've got hygiene, you've got fire and safety.
Actually,
it's very complicated.
But it's both good and bad because they are too damn slow. I have this experience. I have this restaurant. When I open it, they ask me for some kind of amendment on the plan. And then after a long years of time, after I closed that restaurant, I still haven't handed in the paper, and it's still okay. nobody come to bother me because
So that's a good thing.
nobody take responsibility in the government.
So it works for and
Sometimes
against.
it works. It depends on your luck.
Yeah.
And your side?
It took a year and a half for me to get my general license after I've already
A year
operated
and a
for a
half.
year and a half. Yeah.
And your side, did you face the same
I had a
things?
different agenda. My agenda was that I was very close to PMQ. So with the liquor license, with a lot of things, we had undercover like people from the department that would stand at my door, like 6 of them. And they would give me a ticket for my door not closing for less than 5 minutes. They
You
came
had the
in and
same
gave me a
problem
ticket.
actually with the liquor license board and
Yeah,
the police.
I
didn't you?
had the police, 8 of them raid my restaurant during the first 3 months of opening. 8 of them came in at 10:30 at night. I had 2 guests finishing up their teas, and people just come in and they're rude and they come in and they're trying to kind of hassle you and scare you into something. And to me, it's like, what did I do wrong? I'm running an operation. First of all, I'm not even selling alcohol to anyone, and my guests are about to leave.
You're not even selling meats, right?
I
And
think
I don't
this,
even sell meat.
What, they think you are selling marijuana because of the name?
Exactly. Yeah.
well, it is organic, isn't it?
It's organic. We
Man,
grow
how
it
come it's
outside.
really, seriously, filled with all this ridiculous scenario, and I really understand you people having business in the Central District, and I don't really understand. And there's rumors that that behind all this is the Lan Kwai Fong group of people. They because they want to save, they try to avoid competition from Soho area, so they line up with all these people to complain about other restaurants and bars in the Soho area, so they cannot sell alcohol after 11 o'clock. But I was thinking, there are residents above Lan Kwai Fong, so if they have to impose the 11 o'clock law, why don't they impose in all Central District?
We're actually
It's
going to do. We're going to
ridiculous.
do a show on that at some stage
We
to
should
actually
do that.
talk about that
Let's
because
not sell alcohol at all.
Yeah.
Turn this into a Muslim country then.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you wonder, why do police just suddenly
What's the rationale? And
Yeah.
they can't tell you. They just say people complain. But I believe everywhere people complain, the bar downstairs or restaurant downstairs.
But yeah, and apparently, according to the police, every time someone reports, they have to take action of some
and I think that's fair enough. But I think if you
But there are all these people taking advantage of this.
yeah, that's where it
Exactly.
does
But I
fall
don't
down.
think the police actually does anything in terms of, okay, if something does happen right away, there's a bar fight, there's something for them to do.
Yeah.
But they can't, other than breaking the rules and not closing the door by a certain time, they can't really do anything about it. I think what is more scary for a single standing, restaurant and restaurateur like ours is that FVHD comes in, and that's the scary part, because anytime they can take your license away.
Independent operators and groups as well, is that they actually take a great deal of pride in their kitchens, in their front of house operations, and certainly we are considerably far ahead of the curve if you have a look at the Dai Pai Dongs and all of those things. Certainly they do fit into our society, but in terms of the level of hygiene and all of those things that most of us do have, it's certainly up there.
I just don't understand. Like yesterday, I was in Thai Hang. I was a Thai restaurant that I really love, and all the seats are outside, right? I can't even have one person standing outside across from my restaurant. That's my responsibility. I have liability for anyone around my restaurant.
Liability, as in they will come and say to you, it's
within
your
my
problem.
licensing conditions, there cannot be any person outside of my restaurant drinking, smoking, talking.
How can you
It's not
control that?
public
that's
So like the fun police are here.
yeah, it's not your
Yeah.
and it's not
So,
in
but
your
it's
restaurant.
within my conditions.
And do you think this applies to any particular venue, or do you think that they pick on
Purposely
certain
picked on.
certain
Areas.
areas?
I think at the end of the day, we were talking about how, I'm a very honest person. If you want to exist in Hong Kong, not only are you Renee Zepe or, all these people, not only do you have to have talent, you have to be a restaurateur, you have to be savvy, you need to get investment. There's so many things involved when it comes to that, and I was definitely bullied. Every time I went to a meeting, I was like, I'm gonna hire the best lawyer in town. I never felt so bullied in my life in every situation. Going to court, trying to get a license, and people are like, play the cute little girl card. I go in, I don't even try. They're like, you're not getting a license.
Do you think it's these sorts of, this sort of bureaucratic bullshit that stops visionaries like yourselves with something to give, stops you from trying hard and doing something? After a while, you can only take so many rejections before you go,
It's just too hard.
Yeah.
And Richard Eggebus said something the other day that Hong Kong is one of the most difficult cities in the world to operate a restaurant. And we need to change that, because if we want to be a gateway to Asia for food and for wine, there has to be change.
Well, that's why we don't give up that easily, If you're in this industry for this long, you know how it is, and you just don't give up. I think what you said earlier is, yes, it does, this bureaucratic bullshit does take a lot of your creativity out of you, and takes so much of your time to deal with petty little bullshit, and it wastes so much of my personal time to create,
Also, a bit about the culture, the dining scene is Hong Kong. I find is getting a bit bored.
You mean the customers are getting bored, or the
Customer, I think.
getting?
Okay, for example, we are a restaurant with like 100 seats. We have like proper surveys, dining table with tablecloth, glassware for different kind of wine, and people always request like to waive their corkage, and they don't want to really pay extra for the surveys, and I find it very puzzling. Like people would come and say, I really support the restaurant, so please waive this and waive this. and it's a funny logic, because if you support me, then why you want to take advantage of me?
Yeah.
You should be supporting me and come and give me business, not by like asking me to give you a lot of discounts. And
But that's a matter of perception. I have my sister come in and it's like, I want to bring some champagne in. Can you waive my corkage? I'm like, even as my sister, I'm like, no, just because I don't want you to bring all your friends here and think that this is like some private kitchen for
You touched on something about staff, and we'll have one last question before we wrap up. Do you feel that staffing for independents is more difficult, and is it harder to be an employer of choice, and why?
Definitely. I think we've already gotten to second year point, and now we're trying to do it in this different way, this hiring thing. At the beginning, I think people just thought, first of all, you're a vegetarian restaurant. No one wants to learn how to cook vegetables, Second of all, a woman runs it. Third of all, it's an independent owner. What happens if tomorrow they close down, So you face and you face these kind of issues. But my background, what I've tried to do is to build that credential first. So not only are we, an independent restaurant, I'm also letting people know that I train every single person, and I have Peninsula and Four Seasons training, and I built my resume for this many years to build this restaurant. So I think people have that trust now. Yeah.
Good. Well, that's all we have time for today, but thank you very much. It's been fantastic for you guys to come along and give us a little bit of insight into how hard it actually is to be in the restaurant business in Hong Kong.
Restaurants are tough, and clubs are no different. Check out our first Day in the Life segment, where we explore the lives of those at the top of their game.
And where I get to be a barback for a few hours. Certainly it's nowhere near as easy as those guys make it look.